Today on the Home Strategist, why am I so excited about a 1955 three-bed, two-bath Rambler? Well, I'm going to tell you in another edition of what makes this house great. I'm Dr. C, and you're watching the Home Strategist. So I want to make this a little less formal and a little bit more like a live stream, so let's get right into it. Here's the home that we are going to take a look at today. Right? This is a pretty typical Midwestern style Rambler built in 1955. It's a three-bed, two-bath. It's about 2,300 square feet, which means they're probably talking livable square footage, so there's probably about 1,200 square feet on the main floor. And it's got a nice size lot. So 9,000 square foot lot, roughly. That's just a little bit under a quarter of an acre, which is a great size. It gives you plenty of space, and you'll see in the pictures that that's true. It has a two-stall garage on it, and the price is, I think, decent. I was looking around at different comparables. $123 a square foot is really competitive, and the asking price is not bad. So one of the things that stood out to me in the property description, and look, these property descriptions are written by the realtors, so there is a lot of puffery involved and a lot of sales talk. That's fine. But this house has been owned by the same person or the same people for 59 years. I think that's great for one major reason, and that is that there are probably a lot of opportunities inside the home to make some pretty significant upgrades. When you've lived in a house that long, you tend to become house blind. You don't see the things around you that need updating as much because you're just used to being there. So that's one definite plus to me. Another one is obviously the location. I did look up the location on Google Maps and did some digging around. There is a lot to offer here. There's schools nearby. There's easy transportation, lots of shopping like grocery stores. So that's all good stuff. The laundry on this house is located in the basement, which is pretty common for these types of homes. And it does make mention of the fact that there is the option of potentially putting a fourth bedroom in the basement, but you would need to add an egress window, which is true. You can't call it a bedroom in a basement if it does not have a means of escape in case of a fire or some other situation. It says it has a new water heater in 2022. That's been a few years now, but most water heaters in a modern city water type of environment can last about 10 years or so before you're going to start having problems, typically. It does have a poured foundation, which is great, and it talks about some of the other things that are important about this home. One of which that's important to note is that, yes, it is a two-stall garage, but it's a two-car deep garage, so it's called a tandem. It's not a side-by-side, as you can see in the pictures, so just one thing to note there. All right, getting into the inside photos, you can see here's the living room. A lot of datedness here, a lot of kind of dark oak woodwork. The front door looks like it's newer, which is great. So it's got a more modern sort of steel front door, well insulated, good glass. It's got that leaded glass look to it. It's got some older looking carpet, obviously, kind of the shag look. And it's got a ceiling fan that looks like it came out of the 1980s, which is not necessarily uncommon for these types of homes. Here's another look at the living room. However, it's got a big front window, lots of natural light, which is good. It's got a front closet behind the door, which is awesome. Anytime you have closets, it's a plus. As long as it doesn't take away from a lot of the home square footage, closets are awesome because people really like having a place to store their things. Here's the kitchen. You'll see right off the bat, one thing that sticks out like a sore thumb is the fact that there are white appliances. We don't see a lot of white appliances anymore. The stainless steel look has been in for quite a while now, and now you're starting to see more of the black stainless, and white is pretty amazing. A lot of these homes, even though they're older, had the black appliances, which became pretty popular in the 90s and the early 2000s. So there's definitely an opportunity to upgrade the appliances here. Countertops look like they're laminate. Outlets look like they could be a bit of a problem. That's one thing they didn't do on these older houses very well, was put a lot of counter outlets in place, but that's something that an electrician can come in and rectify fairly easily. It's going to cost you a little bit of money, but you can do it. Now, these cabinets are interesting because, yeah, they're dated looking, and some would even say they're ugly, but these are not the worst cabinets in the world for a facial upgrade. There are places online where you can order cabinet doors reasonably, I won't say cheap, but they're reasonably priced. They're not crazy expensive. And these could be painted, and you could do a cabinet door upgrade to them and make them look really nice. Definitely the appliances need to go. They need to be upgraded. You could go with some nicer countertops, but these cabinets are not as tragic as one might think that they are. There's lots of storage space here. That's no doubt. For a galley-style kitchen with a peninsula on the end of it, there is a lot of room here for storage. The dining room, this is a separate room, and you'll notice about these older homes, these are kind of cut up. That's just their style. That's the way it is. I know the open floor plan is very, very popular. But there's some folks, like my oldest daughter, kind of doesn't mind a more divided home space because it gives you some of that privacy room to room. You could see that the flooring has been upgraded to like a luxury vinyl plank or a laminate style flooring. That can definitely stay. You don't need to tear that out. Okay, here's another view of the dining kitchen area, and you can see how that sort of lays out. On the back of the house is an addition. And down in Arizona, where I live, they would call this an Arizona room. They basically added a back 3-season porch onto this house. I don't see heat in this room. I don't see a baseboard necessarily. There might be one hiding over behind those two chairs, or that chair and that stool along the wall where that little radio is located at. But this is probably a 3-season type of porch that you can use spring, summer, and fall, but in the wintertime, it might not be a usable situation. Here's just a look at one of the bedrooms. I'm not going to get into all the bedrooms. They're pretty dated looking, as you can see. Definitely room for some potential door upgrades. You could take these flat panel doors out and replace them with a paneled style door, make it a little bit more modern looking. One of the things you'll see hiding here in the corner of this photo is that there are hardwood floors in this house. That was very common in homes of this era. It was carpet in the living spaces, but hardwood in the bedrooms, and that's great. Here's a bathroom. Not the worst layout in the world, a little bit awkward, but definitely very dated and plenty of room for improvements here. And here's the basement. So one thing I've mentioned in another video is about suspended ceilings. Look, I know they're not the most modern look, and there's some people that really dislike the look of a suspended ceiling, but one of the things that these are great for is that they give you access to the mechanical systems on the first floor. Things like plumbing, HVAC, etc. That's great for a home strategist because you can come into the home and you can make upgrades to it without having to blast out drywall and all that kind of stuff from down in the basement. This basement's not the worst thing in the world. It's got knotty pine walls in it, and the carpet looks decent. It's kind of a pretty common Berber type of carpet that you see in a lot of basements. It's probably a sort of a rubber vinyl back carpet in case you ever got any wet spots in your basement if you had a big rain or something like that. Pretty typical here. You could paint this knotty pine, get rid of sort of that dark wood look if you want to. Here's that space they were talking about that could potentially be turned into a bedroom in the basement. That's very true. Looks like there's a little closet over in the corner. It's got those old style asbestos tile floors in there. That's not a big deal. Remember, asbestos is only a big deal when you start to mess with it. You're better off just leaving this tile where it is instead of trying to remove it. Just carpet over the top of it. You can even put luxury vinyl plank over the top of this and it's not going to bother anyone. Here's the mechanical area. You can see the newer water heater. You can see how everything lays out. The basement looks pretty dry to me. Doesn't look like there's a lot of evidence of water damage or anything crazy like that. The furnace is not mentioned as being newer, but the furnace does not look old either. It looks like it was probably replaced in the last 10 years or so. Looks like there's some cabinet storage down there, which is great. Here's the basement bathroom. So this is the second bathroom. This is pretty typical of a basement bathroom from this era, kind of an afterthought. The shower was probably added in after the fact. In fact, you can kind of see where the concrete floor next to the toilet may have been cut to add the shower in at some point. There was probably just a toilet and a sink down there originally, but that's a nice addition because it's roughed in for plumbing. The garage, here's that tandem garage. You can see the two vehicles in there. The one thing I'm encouraged about here is that a lot of tandem garages, they call them a tandem, but fitting two cars inside of that garage is a real stretch. Here you can see that there's a full-size extended cab pickup and an SUV in the garage, which again gives me hope that the garage is actually deep enough to do something with. Here's a view of the backyard. Nice big backyard. You can see the old style clothesline posts. Those can be taken out if they really bother you. Usually they got a big chunk of concrete on the bottom of them, but you could probably hire somebody with a backhoe to come over and pull them out if you really wanted to. One of the things you'll also notice looking at this picture pretty clearly is that this house has been resided and it looks like it's had brand new vinyl windows installed throughout. That's a big deal. That's one of those mechanical upgrades, one of those systems upgrades to a home that I tell people you got to pay close attention to. In addition, it also has steel soffit, steel gutters, steel fascia, which is good. It's mostly maintenance free on the outside. You can see there's a nice little shed in the back that kind of fits the decor of the house, which is great. It's always nice to have a shed to store your lawnmower and your garden tools and things like that. But just a nice backyard. I looked on Google Maps. There is no alley behind this home, so you own the whole thing all the way back to the fence. Just a quick look at the permit history. There were some remodeling items done. I'm thinking that was for the 3-season porch as well as the tandem garage, because you see home edition on there. One of the things that stands out on here is on April 12th, 1998, they did a sewer/stormwater upgrade, including plumbing and the sewer laterals. This is important. A lot of these homes that were built in the 50s and 60s used clay-style sewer pipe coming from the house out to the curb, or they used a cast iron type of piping. The clay would either crush after a while, or the cast iron would end up rusting out and you would get tree roots in your sewer. And you were constantly calling someone to come out and cable out the sewer because it was becoming plugged all the time. A lot of these older homes had to have that done. Looks like that's already been done. You can confirm that with both the homeowner as well as having a home inspection done, but that's a good thing. So that's it. That's our home. Those are the things that make this home great. And I cannot emphasize that enough. This era of home, and I talk about these in other videos from about 1950 to about 1980, I love them. They're built really well with a lot of care. They show their age in ways that are quite obvious, and yet they're very open to upgrade. There's a lot of things you can do to this home. One of the things to consider with this is if you want to go with that open floor plan kind of thing that everybody's excited about nowadays, you've got to be aware that this house is framed with rafters, not trusses. So a rafter relies on the bearing wall that runs right up the middle of the home, both on the first and second floor and or the basement, however the house is configured. So if you're going to do something like blow that open and open up the floor plan, you need to be aware that you're going to have to put in a structural beam. That's going to require permits. It's probably going to require an engineer or an architect to design that for you. And in most cases, or in some cases at least, you're going to have to hire a contractor to come in and do that for you because you may not have the mechanical know-how, or the local building requirements will not allow you to do that work yourself. It just depends on where you're located, what community you're in. And here's one of the things that the pictures show if you know what to look for, but sometimes people don't think about. This home is move-in ready. Yes, it's dated. Yes, it looks like your grandparents' house, but it's something you can move into and do the upgrades and the things that you'd like to do to it as you're living in it. That means you can peck away at it. You don't need to bite the whole apple off at once. You can take it a step at a time and do what you need to do to make this house build equity and become what you want it to be. All in all, this is a great home. If you're a home strategist, which is what I'm trying to teach you to be, this is a home that you should definitely take a second look at. Call your realtor, go out and take a look at the home, put in a competitive offer, and lock this one down because this is a definite plus for future equity building. Thanks for checking out The Home Strategist. If you appreciated this content, give us a like, drop us a comment, and please subscribe to the channel.